Taigaho. All right. So, can you say with me, rubbish? Rubbish. 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 Okay, rubbish. You know, something as neglected as rubbish can actually be an inspiration for a lot of things. A lot of people take rubbish for granted. Let me let you in a little secret. When I go to a different place, I tend to visit the rubbish in that particular place. The reason I visit there is because that's where I find the truth. You know, a lot of people want to hide your phones. You know, you put that screen cover so that nobody can see, but you don't try to hide your rubbish. But the truth is, I would know a lot more about you from your rubbish bin than I could know from your phone. So I would visit different places. The first thing I go to those places when as a tourist is to see the rubbish place. And then I'm like, interesting. Oh, these people, this is their lifestyle, huh? You know, because they have nothing. Nobody is like, hey, get away there. What are you doing in the rubbish? So rubbish to me had an interesting impact when I was a little kid. When I was young, I was poor. But here's the thing, I didn't know I was poor until I visited a rubbish place where the rich people throw away their rubbish. That's when I realized, my goodness, I am really poor. I walked in there, and then I saw an apple, which was half-eaten. Don't judge me. I never ate an apple before that. I'm like, what? A sausage? These people are throwing away sausages. And I'd never seen one. I've never eaten one. I'd only read about it. I'm like, my goodness, there is so much to this world. But of course, the first thing I realized was like, you know what? We are actually really poor. You know, I didn't know that until I went there. And then it became an inspiration for me through seeing that rubbish that there is a whole big world out there. Out of my little world that I was imagining, this is everything there is. Where our aspirations was to be security guards, because that's what we see people doing. It's not like there is no honor in being a security guard, no. But it's because that's what I saw people doing. The people around me, that's what they were doing. That's what I aspired to. But when I visited these people, rich people's rubbish, I was like, oh my goodness, there is so much to it. That's when I realized the potential of rubbish. Despite being looked down on, I realized there is a lot of potential to rubbish. That's when I was like, oh my goodness, since that there is so much, that's when I got the inspiration to even wanting to read. I started wanting to read so much, but remember I was poor, I didn't have the books. I started going there in the rubbish area, reading people throw away some of the pages of their books, and then I'm reading that. Of course, I spent so much time in the rubbish bin in the rubbish area than playing with other kids, of me just reading. And a lot of these books really opened me up to realize there is a world out there that I was not aware of, out of my little world. And then I started going around asking for people for books. Hey, knock, 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 do you guys have books? A lot of people thought, what's wrong with this kid? I was only in primary school. Why is he so fascinated about these books? I read so much books, and I knew that, oh my goodness, there's so much that I actually didn't know. I started aspiring to go out of my world. I started to aspire to be elsewhere. So if it wasn't for that rubbish, I wouldn't be standing here in front of you. So the fact that I have a different appreciation of rubbish, when I go around, or when I came to Hong Kong, my life took an interesting turn. I started being treated like rubbish. I was like, wow. I'm now being treated like rubbish? I'm like, what is wrong with these people? I sit on the MTR. Everybody runs away. I'm like, wow, these people are running away from me. We used to play a little game with my Indian friend that let's see, who do they run away the most from? We get on the bus. You know, just get on any bus. I sit in somewhere there. You sit on there. And then people come in. They're like, oh, African. Indian. And then people sit on there. I'm like, you know, they're trying to squeeze and squeeze. You know, they squeeze as far as they can do from us. That was sometimes when I even go to the MTR with my friends who are Chinese or white, when we get there, there's only one spot left, and there's three of us wanting to sit down. I'm like, relax, guys. I'll be the first one to sit down. We're going to have empty seats after I sit down. You sit down, and then you go out. You know. But because of my appreciation of what people look at as rubbish, because of that, I actually think that these experiences don't actually put me down. Because I know my potential, I know my value. Even when people look down on me, I know who I am, I know that what I can offer. But the best I can do is to make sure when I'm in that position is to learn as much as I can. I always tell my friends, if you throw me into a fire, for whatever amount of time that can allow me to survive, when I come out of that fire, I will be knowing more about fire than anybody else in this world. It's because whatever situation you throw me in, I'm not going to be crying, crying and crying and crying. And, I'm like, this is where I am right now. What's the best I could do is to learn about this particular situation. That's what I did when I came to Hong Kong. Because I like to read so much. I started, I came here as a refugee, homeless, no food. Hey, it's Hong Kong. I walked in Hong Kong, I had about 200 Hong Kong dollars. Is that enough for anything in Hong Kong? Not much. It runs away very quickly. So then you become homeless. You don't have all the other things. And then while I'm homeless, I could have chosen to be like, oh, I'm a victim, I'm a victim, I'm a victim. But my mentality was different. What I opted for is like, okay, while I'm here, this is my moment of gaining clarity. Clarity on what matters in life, on who these people are, on what my values are. Because when you're at the bottom of the society, when society is treating you like rubbish, you really, really get to know more about that particular society. The same thing, you go to the rubbish place, nobody cares about rubbish, but actually that's where you get more clarity about a particular community or a particular person. I always tell my friends, like, maybe when you're dating somebody, maybe you need to go check their rubbish, before you date them and see what kind of person they are. But I was there, I was like, let me gain more clarity. People treated me like rubbish. People treated me like trash. I get to learn about them. And one of the things I did, because I did not have the right to go to school when I came here, was to study the system here and understand this particular place and be able to find a path for myself. What do these people actually value? And the first starting point was like, let me study what the people don't study that much. Let me study their constitution. Let me study whatever you guys call it. Let me study this particular thing. So I started reading documents between the Legislative Council and the Security Bureau. Oh my goodness, fascinating conversation that I was reading. The reason I was reading that is because I was a refugee. It's it's something that is processed by the immigrants. So I wanted to know everything that there is and how these policies and how the people think about me. I was there reading, and what I knew was if you are a refugee, you cannot study in Hong Kong, especially in university after you are above 17, which is a child age. And I discovered something during that particular time. There was a conversation between the Legislative Council and the Security Bureau. They were asking, how many people have actually applied to try to study in Hong Kong and you were rejected? What I had understood from people talking was, they reject everybody. But when I was reading, I found out, nobody actually had ever applied, so I'll be the first one to apply. I was like, wow, this is interesting. It was out of that reading, and then that's when I went on and started studying and got into university and became the first refugee to actually study here and be able to graduate from here. And it inspired many, many, many kids who are of refugee backgrounds, some of minority backgrounds, to realize that actually there is, potential, there is opportunity. Of course, as part of that identity of being a refugee, a homeless guy, you're African in Hong Kong, and people are running away from you. When parents see you with their daughter, they run out. They're like, wait, what are you doing with this particular guy? I remember when I was in university, we become friends with some of the local girls. And then they're like, it's Chinese New Year, come and have dinner at our place. The parents will be like, who is this guy? It's just my friend. The parents will be like, no, don't fall in love, huh? I'm like, wow, these guys, they think I think I'm not supposed to fall in love. To an extent that we visited one place, a female friend, we got there, I was like, I wasn't sure if they're going to allow us to get in. I was like, oh, these people respect Japanese people. They like Japanese people and Japanese culture. I brought in my Japanese professor with me. I'm like, yeah, let's go for this dinner. And then we got there, we got kicked out of the house. I was like, we didn't even enter. I'm like, wow, this is interesting. Because these people saw me as this discarded, they written me off as rubbish that nobody should actually think there is value in it. Fast forward, the same parents, they were looking at something on TV and they saw me something like, oh, he's a banker now? Like, oh, what about your friend? How is he doing? I'm like, what? Now they want to hear about me now, right? I'm like, oh, I'm already taken. I have a Japanese wife now. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to come there. The rubbish is doing very well, by the way. But all this situation did not really put me down because I realized that my value is not derived on how people see me or how people treat me. The way people treat you is nothing to do with who you are. It's everything to do with who they are. So when you treat people like trash, it tells everything about you. And most of the time, I encourage people to say, some people they walk around thinking they are awesome people. I'm a wonderful person, I'm like, why don't you pay attention the next time you sit next to a Pakistani guy on the train? And pay attention to your feelings, how you are feeling. Are you uncomfortable? A lot of people are not honest because that's a very, in Hong Kong thing, you run away, yeah? Instead of like, what, let me sit down here and let me really feel what I'm actually feeling. When you feel uncomfortable, don't run away. Just remind yourself that, oh my goodness, I'm actually a horrible person as well. Because it happens more often than you think. In a singular day, if I just wake up from the morning until the end of the day, I've tracked before more than 50 forms of microaggression that I have to deal with in Hong Kong. You would really think if I was really being affected about all that, I would probably be standing here. A lot of people actually have to experience more than 50 forms of microaggression. We actually had to do something with, at the Africa Center, which is an organization that I founded. We do an empathy exercise, where we invited some female students, and then I say, you know what? I want you to spend only 30 minutes wearing a hijab, and I want you to go to 7-Eleven, go to the train station, talk to people, and these are Chinese, very Hong Kong, born here, grew up here, they speak Cantonese like everybody else. And I say, I want you to experience that. I want you to see how horrible this place can be. The majority of them came back crying. They were like, I cannot believe it. I'm talking to these people and they are pretending that they don't understand what I'm saying. Because they assume this particular person probably Indonesian. Therefore, we should treat them like trash, which is not the best way to treat people. But for people like me, even in all these situations of microaggression and sometimes even more physical forms of aggression, I do not take that into like, oh, this is who I am. Therefore, this is, I'm nobody and I cannot be anything. But the chance that I take from that is like, how can I learn from this? And what do I learn from there? And what can I take out with me to be able to make a life for myself? So whenever, just let you more in a little secret, whenever somebody discriminates me, it actually helps me. It empowers me. Don't go around discriminating me and discriminating people. But sometimes I get angry. I'm like, yeah, you know what I'm going to do next? I'm really going to work so hard and I'm going to be better than you. I get so much inspiration when people treat me like trash. I go there, I get discriminated. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it better than you. I know people in Hong Kong have a very interesting, relationship with money. I'm like, I'm going to be richer than you. Huh? You don't want to sit next to me? That's your loss. Keep watching. The more you discriminate me, the more richer I become. Keep discriminating me, more money. And I'm not going to stop. So I know there's going to be a lot more discrimination. So the best way for you to make me not want to be too rich is to make sure you don't discriminate me. Because if you look maybe 10 years later or 20 years later, I'm very, very rich, just know that it's because of all the discrimination that I've experienced in Hong Kong. It's pushing me to want to aspire for more, to even go for more. Because through that, it helps to also, show people, even people in my position and people elsewhere, that we can still push despite all that. So a lot of the inspiration I've gotten around, like even, starting the South Africa Center that I started was largely through the experiences I've gotten. I remember we would do kids programs, the African kids. I love to play with kids. So we go there and then we visit a place. We rent a place. We're paying for the place. And the people we're paying for, they keep on checking us. They're like, I'm like, could you just let us use the space? They're like, just making sure you guys are using the place properly. I'm like, seriously? I got so angry. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go rent my own space. Let's go find the space that we could use. I'm like, where's the money? I'm like, I don't care. I will find the money. The amount of anger that I have right now, I am going to find it and we're going to fund it. And I even said something like this. Once we start that place, we're going to fund it with nobody else's money. We're not going to ask for donations or anything because that's the brand we want to show to these people. 5 years down the line, we are still there and we are still pushing. But all these other things come out of that anger. So what's the point that I'm trying to get through here? It's basically that, all these different stories, all different parts of who we are, or who you are, who I am, it really, it's really about embracing that and building something that is good for the society and good for yourself. It's not just me who go through a lot of challenges. It may be you in your own different context, where you experience other challenges, whether it's how people think of you, how family think of you, and the experience that you get. Maybe rejections. It could be your rejection probably in the industry that you are in. But it's not about like, I give up. But it's more like, how do I look into this? How do I harness this? How do I change this and make this something that really pushes me forward, for something better for me and for everybody else? Thank you.